Welcome back to the Lonely Star, everyone. Today we're going deep on something pretty mind-bending, I'd say. Something that really makes you kind of step back and think about what you think you know.
It really is. It's one of those concepts that once you hear it, it's hard to shake. And today's deep dive, this exploration, well, it's sparked by research titled Rejecting the Light, Questioning the Afterlife Trap.
And for our listeners, for all of you out there, always hungry for those aha moments, always digging for knowledge, well, today we're tackling the biggest question there is, probably. What happens after we die?
Yeah. What truly happens after we die?
Yeah, we're going to leave aside the typical stories we hear, the pearly gates, the instant
Mhm.
peace, the fluffy clouds. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Those are the comforting images, I guess, the go-to narratives we're all familiar with.
Yeah, and according to the research we've been looking at, the actual reality might be a lot more complicated, maybe even like deliberately tricky.
That's the suggestion, yeah.
Mm.
That there might be something more intentional going on, a system that might not be what it
A
seems.
system. Okay, so we're talking about a post-death light, this idea of reincarnation, which so many people accept as truth. And the research we're looking at presents this argument. It says this whole system might be and I'm using their words here, a trap. So strap in, everybody, because this is going to challenge some assumptions.
Big time.
Okay, let's start with like the basic picture most of us have in our minds when we think about, what happens after we die. Our research, it really points out how near-death experiences, those NDEs everyone's heard of, they almost always involve certain elements. It's almost like a script, a tunnel of light, your life flashing before your eyes. Sometimes people even come back.
Right, right. The classic NDE narrative.
Mhm.
And that's precisely where the research starts to get interesting. If you think about how unique each individual is, our lives, our experiences, our thoughts, our emotions,
Mhm.
you'd expect, wouldn't you, that the afterlife would be just as individual, just as varied.
Yeah, I mean, limitless, right? If it's truly an eternal existence, you'd think it'd be, well, infinite in its possibilities.
Right. But instead, we see this remarkable consistency in these reported NDEs across cultures, across religions, across time. People from vastly different backgrounds, different beliefs,
Mhm.
they all describe very similar experiences. It's really quite striking.
It is. And that's the thing, right? Our research, it makes this point. Why such a rigid structure in what's supposed to be a boundless realm? Why this same script, almost like a pre-programmed sequence?
Yeah, it almost makes you question if it's truly as free and open as we often imagine, or if there's something else at play, a framework, a system, maybe something more orchestrated than organic, as you said earlier.
Exactly. It makes you wonder. Okay, so let's move on to reincarnation. Most people, I think, see it as this beautiful process, right? Coming back life after life, learning lessons, growing spiritually. It's a comforting idea for a lot of people.
Absolutely. It's a very common belief, a deeply ingrained idea in many spiritual traditions, the concept of returning to learn and evolve.
But our research, it suggests something completely different. Almost the opposite, in fact. It proposes that reincarnation might not be this beautiful cycle of growth, but a trap, a system of control that some souls are desperately trying to escape.
A trap, yeah, that's a strong word, isn't it? And it's a bold claim, for sure.
So what makes the researchers think that? What leads them to that conclusion?
Well, they highlight accounts, stories of individuals who, in their own explorations, have come to perceive reincarnation as a kind of confinement. Not a journey of liberation, but a cycle they're caught in.
But if they realize that, why can't they just, get out?
That's the unsettling part. The research suggests that even those who have awakened to this idea, to the possibility of reincarnation as a trap, often remain stuck, unable to break free. They're aware of the prison, so to speak, but they can't find the exit.
Wow, it's like knowing the truth but not knowing how to change it. Okay, so what about those souls who, maybe intentionally, maybe not, but they don't go towards that light? They avoid the tunnel. Where do they end up?
That's a fascinating question. Our research suggests these are the souls that become what we often refer to as ghosts, spirits, or lingering energies, stuck, as it were, in what they call the in-between realms.
The in-between. Sounds lonely. Why would someone or some soul, I guess, avoid the light? What could possibly keep them from moving on?
The research offers several explanations. Some souls might instinctively fear or distrust the system, even if they can't articulate why. Others might be held back by strong attachments to the living world, what we call unfinished business. But maybe the most intriguing idea is that some might consciously choose to resist, to hide, actively rejecting the pull of the light.
Like on some level, they sense something isn't right. Maybe even a survival instinct kicking in, but on a soul level.
Exactly. It's as if something within them, even without fully understanding the potential danger of this reincarnation trap, compels them to resist. And the research emphasizes that even those aware of this potential trap can remain stuck if they don't know an alternative. They're trapped by their own lack of knowledge, their own fear of the unknown.
It's almost like a cosmic catch-22, isn't it? Trapped by the very awareness that could set you free. So this brings us to the idea of choice after death. We're often told we have free will in the afterlife, that we choose our own path. But our research, it throws a wrench in that idea, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests that what we perceive as choice in the afterlife might be more of an illusion of choice than true autonomy. A carefully constructed illusion designed to guide us back into the cycle of reincarnation.
An illusion. But how can you feel like you're making a choice if you're not actually in control?
That's the clever part, the subtlety of this potential system.
Yeah.
The research argues that it offers choices, yes, but choices that are still part of the trap, like being given multiple doors, but they all lead back to the same room.
So even when you feel like you're choosing, you're actually being steered towards a predetermined outcome.
Right. And they do it in a way that makes you feel empowered, like you're in control. The research uses this phrase. They give you options that are still part of the trap, creating a feeling of control while ensuring you make the right, wrong choice.
It makes you wonder what true freedom really means, doesn't it? Okay, so with all of this, it's kind of hard to understand why more people don't question this idea of the light. I mean, it's so universally accepted as the natural thing, the good thing.
Right. It's almost like a default setting for humanity. And the research delves into that, suggesting we're conditioned from birth to accept the light without question.
Conditioned? How so?
Well, think about it. Many religions, they depict a journey towards the light, whether it's heaven or some kind of divine judgment. Then you have New Age spirituality, which often talks about ascending to realms of light. And even science, by dismissing NDEs as just brain activity, it inadvertently shuts down any deeper exploration of these experiences. The research suggests that all of these influences, even when they seem contradictory, contribute to this ingrained acceptance of the light as the natural progression after death.
So we're essentially programmed to not even consider rejecting it as an option.
Exactly. And then when you add in the fear of the unknown, the fear of what might happen if you don't go towards the light, well, it becomes even harder to resist, doesn't it?
Yeah, the fear of nothingness. That's a big one.
Huge. And the research suggests this fear itself might be a manipulation tactic, an illusion woven into the system to keep us on the path of reincarnation.
So it's not necessarily a natural response, but a tool of the system.
That's the argument. It's designed to make you choose the light, even if you have doubts, even if something inside you screams to run the other way. It plays on our deepest fears, our aversion to the void.
Wow. So this fear of nothingness, of being lost in oblivion, it might not even be real.
That's the suggestion. The research encourages us to consider that reality might be far grander, far more expansive than the limited options presented by this potential system. Remember, they say, existence itself is infiniter. Consciousness does not need a system to survive.
That is a lot to take in. Okay, so if we entertain this idea, if we take seriously this possibility of a trap, how do we even begin to navigate it? Where do we even start?
The research emphasizes personal inquiry, going inward, and trusting your own intuition, your inner knowing. It's not about blindly following external doctrines, but about listening to that quiet voice within. What feels true to you? What resonates on a deep level?
Trusting your gut, your inner compass. Yeah, that makes sense. So are there any practices, like anything specific we can do to tap into that wisdom, that inner knowing?
The research mentions things like lucid dreaming, where you become aware within your dreams, and meditation. Practices that allow you to explore deeper levels of consciousness beyond the surface level of everyday awareness. And they specifically say, ask your higher self what it knows about the system.
Your higher self, that part of us that's connected to something bigger, something beyond our limited ego, right?
Exactly. That deeper intuitive aspect of ourselves that might have insights our conscious mind doesn't. The research suggests that the truth is within us. We just need to remember how to access it.
So if all of this is true, when does it all come down to a choice? When do we actually have to make a decision about this light?
The central idea is that at the moment of death, when you encounter those familiar elements, the tunnel, the life review, the guiding figures, you will recognize them. And in that recognition, the choice presents itself.
You'll know what's happening and you'll have to decide right then and there whether to go into the light or not.
Exactly. That moment of recognition, that awareness of the potential reality of the situation, is when you can consciously choose to enter the light or to step off the familiar path and potentially break free from the cycle.
That's a huge decision. I mean, it's going against everything we've been taught, everything that feels safe and familiar.
It is. And that's where the research offers a final, I think, quite empowering thought. The author frames this whole idea of questioning the afterlife, of even considering rejecting the light as a situation with very low stakes.
Low stakes. When we're talking about, what happens after we die, how can it be low stakes?
Well, here's how they put it. If I'm wrong, you lose nothing. You simply return to the system. But if I'm right, you will have a chance to truly break free. So the idea is you have nothing to lose by questioning, by being skeptical, by exploring these possibilities, but you have everything to gain if they're right.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. Take some of the pressure off, I guess. This whole deep dive into rejecting the light, it really gives you a lot to think about. A hidden system in the afterlife, the possibility of conscious choice at the moment of death. It's a lot to process.
It is. And for our listeners, for you, who we know love to explore these big questions, we hope this has sparked some new thoughts, some new avenues of inquiry, maybe even a little bit of healthy skepticism about what we think we know.
So think about it. Does the consistency of those NDEs, does it still feel comforting? Or does it make you wonder if there's something more to the story? And most importantly, what does your own intuition tell you about what happens after we leave this life?
Trust your gut. Keep asking those questions. Keep searching for your own truth.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the unknown.
Goodbye for now.
And remember, the truth is stranger than fiction. Join us next time on The Lonely Star.